first I'll give the floor to Melissa. Please be kind to her. She lost her voice, so she will do her best to make herself hearable.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh my God, okay. Hi, my name is Melissa Sunjaya. This is gonna be bad. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna take it my best shot, okay? So bear with me. I'm a visual artist and textile designer, and it's a privilege to have been invited by the Rijksmuseum to speak at this symposium, really. So in my country, Indonesia, access to bookshops and literary sources is limited. Upon our independence in 1945, only 6% of adult male Indonesians could read and write. Women were not even considered in this poll since the numbers were minuscule. Then, according to a newer survey in 2016, only 1 in every 1,000 Indonesians showed an active interest in reading. This makes it challenging to frame history across the conventional platforms like literature. So I was really determined to find ways of disseminating stories other than through books. As an artist, I've taken an unconventional path by using undervalued manual processes in serigraphy and sewing. My work is influenced by anthropology, and I've chosen not to rely on galleries or agents to showcase it. Instead, I've established Tulisan, an artisanal label with the merit of publishing wearable artifacts infused with storytelling. Everything is handmade through fair and ethical practices to foster a dignified paradigm for traditional craftsmanship in Indonesia. Since 2010, our textile work has helped to create a circular economy, bridging art, sustainability, and equity in the workplace. I turn to illustration as a universal language to articulate complex themes, such as the missing narratives of Southeast Asian women, while exploring the material culture of wearable artifacts as both an art medium and an agency of social change. My practice has been guided by specific goals and methodology, which I'd like to share today. So we must first detect the unseen before we can bring the untold story to life. What is missing? Therefore, how can we critically evaluate the visual historiography of the enslaved to create a more inclusive and accurate representation of women? Can a family picture explain a colonial construct? My great-grandmother was a nyai, a concubine. At 13, she was sold by her father due to a pressing economic need to become a mistress, a sex slave, to a 40-year-old Dutch officer. And her story has been kept a secret and concealed in my family. As nyai, these women faced social ostracism, lost their civil rights, and were denied access to education. How does visual silencing operate, as explained by Nancy Yahweh? This is a poetic silhouette painted by Jan Brandes of Flora, his household assistant in Batavia. Her story is also unnoticed. This seemingly benign image entirely hides its appalling treatment towards the female servants, as noted in his own private diaries. Then many grand depictions romanticized plantations and factories in the Dutch East Indies and intentionally omit violence and slavery. This picture shows a sugar factory in Serpong, where the enslaved, as a fundamental workforce in the operations, were only painted as trivial details. Their stories are ignored. normalized presence of enslaved people, veiled in supposedly harmonious family paintings, effectively frames the power dynamic of the ruling white class. This particular image blurs out the story of these Javanese servants who were relocated from their roots and moved to Japan. And this took me a long time to see that these colonial projections with patriarchy ideology foster an unspoken inferiority complex amongst fellow Indonesians, which shades out also the female perspective and undervalues local creations. So how can I re-envision the forgotten? I became interested in revisiting who we were before colonialism, when women were prominent political leaders and cultural icons. Yet besides their portrayal on temple reliefs, finding visual references to these influential women took a lot of work. Then I was intrigued by this picture, Cornelis de Bruyn's lithography, dated 1725, shows that Banten in Java was once a bustling, intercultural and metropolitan port with a solid matriarchy influence, and it was very different than today's Banten. Look closely at these forgotten women. They are armed and powerful. I mean, besides the male gaze. Then Peter Carey and Vincent Hubben's book, Perempuan-Perempuan Perkasa, in English is it's The Invincible Women. It offers a riveting perspective on the unrecalled history of Javanese female warriors from the late 18th and early 19th century, skilled in using their cavalry spears and firearms. So why is it so challenging today to find depictions of female empowerment in Southeast Asia's past? So how can my practice-based research in visual language contribute to understanding epistemic injustice? In Indonesia, Kartini was both an icon of royalty and oppression. And she once said, many things can bring you down, but the only thing that can truly bring you down is your own attitude. So I searched for other cultural phenomena representing this dichotomy of wealth and suffering. Then I discovered a gripping tale of cultural assimilation and adaptation. From the early 17th century, the Dutch East India Company imported exquisite blue and white porcelain from China, accessible only to the wealthiest few. When this trade was disrupted with the fall of the Ming Dynasty in 1644, Delft's ceramicists in the Netherlands began crafting imitations of these Chinese porcelains, transforming a luxury item into a more widely affordable commodity. One more. Thank you. It influenced the production of many other beautiful traditions, including the toile de Jouy fabrics in France and the azulejo ceramic tiles in Portugal, while Delft blue became the epitome of elegance in high couture fashion and luxury collectibles globally. The pigment itself bore a devastating story. And this was before the invention of cobalt blue. At the time, the seductive blue was worth more than gold. During Kulturstelsel from 1830 to 1870, the local farmers in Java were forced into growing indigo as cash crop and selling it to the colonial state at only a tenth of the international prices for Dutch exports. This exploitation fueled terrible human tribulation, including slave labor, environmental degradation, gender politics, racism, and health problems, such as skin cancer. And he marked a dark chapter in our Javanese history. Thus, blue indigo has become a poignant symbol in my work, paradoxically representing luxury and affliction. And because I'm a practitioner in the field of artisanal craftsmanship, I can attest that many, many people are still suffering under these terms and condition. So I created an experiment through mural art. This one-color approach effectively transformed common public areas into luxury spaces. It sparked immediate public engagement, inviting people to be curious of the narrative behind the visual. And you can do blindfolded doodle, you can really create an engagement. This is a hotel room in Jakarta, commissioned by the Singapore Tourism Board, featuring my mural, which invites the guests to appreciate the neglected history of indigo trade and Javanese migration in Temasek, the area that became Singapore today. So up to this point, everything was intuitive. And then I began the reframing process using theoretical context at Falmouth University. The Craftsman by Richard Sennett provides a fascinating lens for examining a creative process through Levi-Strauss' culinary triangle of the raw, the cooked, and the rotten. In my work, I considered the unseen historical narratives as the rotten, challenging our established beliefs. Meanwhile, the visual archives of the Netherlands East Indies represent the raw, the creative ingredients. The cooked is the Delft Blue style, the culinary experience, the friendly visual language, tailored in various formats to suit a diverse audience. I had to find many visual references because female soldiers were simply not visible in the archives of Javanese court uniforms. My approach involved playful experimentation with textures and recontextualizing the distinctive colonial art style to create new authorship. So finally, I named this illustrated project Unremembered, which aims to deliver an unknown story in a familiar visual language, like the Trojan horse. I use a scarf, a simple everyday item of comfort, as a storytelling tool to reflect on Michel Foucault's post-structuralist lens towards material culture. This method uses the wearables to circulate the story and to invite the wearer to become an integral part of the storytelling process itself. Next, the Unremembered led to a commission, redesigning the cover of Perempuan Perkasa, aiming to resonate with a wider, mainly younger female audience. I illustrated the book cover using a palette traditionally associated with cosmetic, and this choice was simple and strategic, designed to familiarize and question. Then I felt motivated to expand the story by adopting autoethnography, which involves illustrating my own insight on that forgotten tale of history, Javanese female warriors. I compiled these sketches into a graphic novel, Matu. Incorporating this personal reflection offers a more intuitive and possibly more tangible way to learn about the topic. So Matu, meaning escape in English, is a light supplementary reading to Perempuan Perkasa, offering an interactive dimension for young adult readers. The title in Hono Joroko, Javanese characters, focuses on escaping from the glass ceiling condition. And in this project, I revisited the colors to form a semiotic palette, such as blue indigo for colonialism, gold for wealth, and gray for the faded memory, and limiting the colors and simplifying the drawings help the readers to connect and to imagine as if their stories is theirs. I designed Matu as a fictional memoir, highlighting the pre-colonial Javanese court women who held considerable political, military, and economic positions, roles often unconsidered. Some illustrations are purposely sketched in red pencil, reflecting unrefined personal notes, and the handwritten text, complete with annotations and strikeouts, is a deliberate visual tactic, representing my journey of self-questioning and the complexity of piecing together historical narrative from scattered shards of evidence. How can her story interact with history? The book concludes with a list of figures offering contextual bridges to the main historical narratives, but then secondly, a QR code links readers to a collection of related essays. Exploring intersectionality through the pre-colonial lens reveals a rich tapestry of influences on the visual portrayal of women. So my goal is to find these erased narratives, especially those untarnished by colonialism. Suppose we can remember the pre-colonial history of Java with a rich matriarchy influence. In that case, perhaps we can glimpse the possibility of another world, the vision to free ourselves from our own mental boundaries. And for example, a critical decolonial framework can be found in Babat Diponegoro, and this is an autobiography of a Javanese prince who led the Java War. His life was significantly influenced by intellectually liberated and powerful aristocratic women of his era. But despite UNESCO recognizing this manuscript as a memory of the world, its limited accessibility underscores the need for innovative platforms to disseminate such pivotal works. So I started the 1830 project as a research platform investigating on the intersection of class, ethnicity, and gender, how it might influence the visual depiction of our forgotten identity. I'm exploring extended reality technologies in wearable collection, connecting the wearers to historical content. And our objectives are preserving culture and restoring the missing narratives. Though really it's still in conceptual stage, this initiative represents a step towards invigorating Indonesia's intellectual awakening and making our story more engaging to all. Through Tulisan, creating storytelling artifacts allows me to erase boundaries and connect with people from different cultures and disciplines. And I trust that our collective efforts will pave the way toward a society that celebrates diversity and champions inclusivity.